Hopefully that wasn't live. Had some very choice words for YouTube. Oh yeah, we're back. Wow. What do you say to that? I don't know. Daniel says we're still live on Zap stream. That's good. And it looks like we're back on YouTube, so I don't know. As rock and roll would say, the show must go on. We're back. That was well, I mean, we should say thank you to Duncan for that. That was our Bitcoin jukebox for the week. Every Tuesday, we do a song request, but I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that now. I didn't really realize that was an issue. I knew that they demonetized me every time I do that, but I didn't know that they would actually shut me down. So I guess that was a good learning experience, but it's good to be back. I'm happy about that. I was fully prepared to be on Zap stream. I wasn't really prepared for a strike on the channel though, so that might not be good because you know, the money from YouTube isn't great, but it definitely helps. So I don't know what the play is there. I don't know. Do we stop that? I don't really want to risk that. I'm a little bit thrown off here. I'm not going to lie. Anyways, whatever. Whatever will be, right? The future's not ours to see. Okay, Sarah. That is a shout out to our good friend in Australia, Dom, because he was making fun of my singing abilities on the Potential Project podcast last week. I was singing the Backstreet Boys. But anyways, let's get to it, I guess. I don't know. Nothing to it but to do it. Let's start out. Big shout out to Duncan there. That was for the Bitcoin jukebox for the rescue dogs. We have like 120,000 sats in there now. So it's good. That was actually a request from a couple weeks back, and nobody bumped them this week. I forgot to mention it a couple times. I forgot to mention it yesterday. But anyways, that was from Duncan. So thanks a lot, Duncan, for getting me shut down. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. We'll be good. All right. And I missed the comments here today after everything that just went down. But anyways, we got Ginger in the chat. Good morning. We got Alien Johnson. Am I buying XRP and HBAR? We'll talk about that. Lori, good morning. Bitcoin fam. Good morning to you. Jay says, I received a text from a friend last night asking about XRP. I've got way too many of those texts this week and calls. Somebody even called me. Said, what's with this XRP thing? What's going on? Adam, good to see you, man. Good to see you, Adam. And we got Dale in the chat as well. Morning, Dale. What's an XRP? That's a good follow-up answer to that. What's an XRP? Centralizing the bankers will love it. Yeah. I mean, if you love centralization, if you love the big banks, if you love giving a small amount of people the ability to create money, then yeah, XRP is phenomenal. Buck 52,000, our newest Living in the Future member is here. Greetings, humans. Good morning. Joey's in the chat. Morning, Joey. Good to see you, brother. Timber Crasher, good morning, Bitcoiners. Stay focused on the winner. Do not get distracted by alts pumping. Compare the altcoin you're attempted to buy to its price in Bitcoin over time. Be wise. Stack sats. Great advice from our good friend Timber Crasher this morning. All right, let's check on the Zap stream here a little bit. Let's see what's going on. Any action in there today? None yet. But so just going back to the Bitcoin jukebox there, every Tuesday, also known as Tuesday, we start the show with a song by request. If you want to make a request, you have to send in the highest Zap. So that was Duncan. If you want to get the stream shut down, send in a request. We're going to keep it going. Screw YouTube. We got bigger things to worry about. I would rather earn sats for the dogs than fiat from YouTube. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to stop it. I don't care. So with that, show some love today. Send in a zap to this address here. Leave a description, leave a comment with your request. And if you're the highest bid, we'll start the next Tuesday with your song. And if you want it to play tomorrow and really give the big GFY to YouTube, then you have to zap over 10K with a request. So let's do that. In honor of the channel being suspended, the stream being suspended today, let's get the rescue dogs some funds, because that's why we're doing it. So that is my ask of you today. One of many, probably. I ask a lot of things from this audience, but I just want the best. I just want the best for you, you know? Daniel says he sent a zap. I do not see the zap. I trust Daniel, but I do not see the zap, so that's not good. Nothing's working today. Duncan, the man, the myth, the legend who got the stream suspended today. It's a good song, though. It was the full version for sure. Lots of violins, lots of solos in there, but it was good. It was cheerful. It's the kind of song we want to start the show with. Muslim Bitcoiner says, I mean, this, I did not even think about this. I do have some other theories, and we're going to talk about one of those today. But let's put this on the back burner for right now. Muslim Bitcoiner says the altcoin pump is definitely a coordinated attack on retailers to ignore Bitcoin. Makes a lot of sense. Hey, this looks like, no, it's not. I thought that was Diego, but it's not. Kind of looks the same. Kind of the same picture. The Bosnian Muslim. Hope we get a dip to 30K. I think you're wishing there, Bosnian Muslim. I think you're wishing. Jason's in the chat. Good morning, Jason. We got Duncan. Smash the like on the way, and let's check on the like situation here. We got 49 people watching, 22 likes, less than half. After all that, after all we've been through today. Josh Gale, our good buddy from Ontario. Morning, Jor. Morning, Arnie. Arnie left. Arnie, you can come back anytime, buddy. We'd like to have you. Nick is in the chat. Good morning. And I agree with Timber Crasher here. 30K is gone forever. The next bear market, if there is one, will not go that low. Stack sats under 100K for now. Soon 100K will have that same sentiment of wishing for 30K. Absolutely correct. Hey, we got Bull Bitcoin in the chat today. A little bit behind, but we are. Good morning. I don't know if that's the legitimate Bull Bitcoin or not. Could just be a big fan of Bull Bitcoin. Unfortunately, there's no way to know. There's no verification, which also isn't the worst thing. But either way, good morning to Bull Bitcoin. Great Canadian exchange. Great group of Bitcoiners. And they've been very helpful to me through the years. So shout out to Bull Bitcoin. I know we talk about Bitcoin well a lot on the show, but Bull Bitcoin, I would say, is right up there with our friends at Bitcoin Well in terms of being on Team Bitcoin, in terms of the functionality of their platform. And they very, very much like Bitcoin Well, they don't hold any Bitcoin, which I love. I think that every Bitcoin exchange, every platform should have that. They're Bitcoin only, and they don't hold your Bitcoin. They don't even give it an option. Same with Bitcoin Well. So I don't know if that's Bull Bitcoin or not, but they just got a free ad from the show. Morning, Matt. Time to climb the telephone pole of life and earn some fiat. Okay, well, we got this is a whole bunch of chats here saying that the stream was down. I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. But we do have some stuff to talk about today, so I better not screw around too much. I'm trying to limit my screw around time, but you know how it is. All right, where do we begin? Let's start with the mempool. Actually, I'm going to catch up on comments because I don't like when comments get too far behind and then, they're kind of irrelevant by the time I get to them. All right. Trudeau doesn't like free thinking, free Jor. Okay, we got Josh says from now on, Jor, play your audio on a stereo in the background. I don't think that that's possible. I think it would still catch me. I think the YouTube bandits would still catch me. Knoxville, good morning, my friend. XRP is a scam, pump and dump, 100%. We're gonna look at that right away. Actually, maybe we'll start with that as a tribute to all the XRP lovers out there. We'll start with that. Maverick, the mighty checking in. Maverick, the mighty checking in. Hello, everyone. What a beautiful day to stack sats. Could anyone comment on what Nostr is and perhaps how it works? Whew, I can do that. I love talking about Nostr. Do you know why I love talking about Nostr? Because I truly believe that Nostr today. Oh, look at this. You guys want to see something cool? I know it's just a deer, but still, just walking down the road. Not many cares in the world for that deer today. Sounds like we need some predators in this area by the looks of that little casual stroll. So anyways, back to Nostr. I really believe that Nostr today is the equivalent of Bitcoin back in like 2014 in terms of the adoption, in terms of who's building in there, in terms of what's happening in the space that nobody really knows about at all. Like, it's truly incredible what's happening on Nostr right now, truly. And you can get into the censorship resistant aspect of it in terms of nobody can stop you on there. Nobody can deplatform you from Nostr. But the real thing for me, and I think that's going to be the real game changer. I mean, Matt Odell calls it an open API for the world to build on, because you don't need permission to use it. You don't need permission to build on it, which is really badass. But for most people like myself and probably you watching here, that's not really, you know, it's cool that you can use it without permission, but I don't think there's many builders who can just build a Nostr client. But you never know. I've been very surprised with the intelligence level of the community here. But anyways, I think the real game changer, and I don't think that people focus on this enough, but it's the micropayments. It's the zaps. I think that is the difference between that. That's what's going to bring people over. Nobody really cares too much. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people. I'd say like less than 0.5% of people who actually would be affected by the censorship aspect, who have been deplatformed, who have had their channel suspended or their stream suspended. Like, it's not many people. Most people just post pictures of their food and of their cats. But it's the Zap feature for me. So on there, just like, you know, we do on the show, just like Zapstream is actually built on Nostr, I believe. It's connected with in Nostr for sure. But the Zap feature, because as it is today, like you look at Instagram, you look at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Substack, any of these platforms that people use to post on, I mean, what do you get out of it? Think about like the people who have large accounts on those platforms. I mean, yes, they make money off of like ads, but they still, in that sense, are owned by somebody. If somebody's paying you a lot of money to promote their product, you are essentially owned by them. They decide what you can and can't say. And if you say something that they don't like, your money's cut off. And that's a very poor way to approach things. And it's been like that for the last, decade probably, but that's not how it should be. Right. And so that's the current way. But then you think of somebody like me. Like, I don't have 50 million subscribers or 50 million followers on Instagram. So it's like I post something just to share, but I don't get anything from that. Right? People like the picture, maybe comment on it, maybe share it. But outside of that, like, that's just a complete illusion. That's just a dopamine hit for people. Whereas with Nostr, if I post something, whether it's a video, a picture, a long post form that you can do on there now, like a SUBSTACK, and somebody gets value from that, they can send value to me instantly without permission and without anybody else involved in there. And the current system just doesn't facilitate that. You can't send 2 cents to somebody, but you can send 20 sats to somebody. And for me, just going through this, and I've been on Nostr for almost 2 years now. I think my 2-year anniversary is in January. So that's what it is for me. It's like you can do that now. You can't do that. You can't send 2 sats, but you can't send 2 cents because the current system doesn't allow for it. There's too many people involved. There's too many people trying to get a piece of that 2 cents. But on Nostr, people can just send Bitcoin, send sats, 20 sats. Can't do that. You can't do that on traditional legacy. And a zap is so much more meaningful both to receive and send than just a like or a comment on the traditional stuff. So I think that once people figure this out, nobody's really there yet. But I think it's going to be somebody like, I don't know, Kid Rock. Let's say Kid Rock joins Nostr and he starts to see some traction there. He's getting some Bitcoin, but you know, it's going to be somebody like Taylor Swift, because if you think about her audience, right? Think about Taylor Swift. Let's say that instead of posting to Spotify, where Spotify takes like 98% of it, or posting to YouTube, or posting to Instagram, where she gets literally nothing from it. Let's say she posts onto Nostr. She posts her brand new song. Nobody else has heard it. It's premiere debut on Nostr. Think about how many people follow her. Let me check. Let's do some very objective, basic math here. Oh, my phone's about to die. I'm horrible at charging my phone. I always leave my charger downstairs. Okay, well, I guess my internet's just, Taylor Swift doesn't exist anymore. Can't search her. Maybe she got deplatformed today too. Taylor Swift. Okay, she has 283 million followers. I was going to guess like 50. 283 million followers. Okay, so let's just think about this. How many sats are in one Bitcoin? 100 million. So let's say that every one of those fans, when she dropped her new song, every one of those fans dropped 1 sat. 1 sat. Fraction of a penny worth, but 1 sat. She makes 1 Bitcoin from dropping a song. If every one of her fans, her followers, sent in 1 sat for the song, that's 2.83 Bitcoin just for dropping 1 song. But think about the ones who drop 50,000 sats or 500,000 sats, or her crazy psychotic Swifties. Maybe they drop 1 million sats on the song. Like, and then you think about that in the grand scheme of how many Bitcoin actually exist. Like, it's only a matter of time before that happens. That's the cool part. That's why I call it like the Bitcoin in 2014. That's where we are today, because they're not there yet, but they're coming, because it just makes so much sense. So then, I mean, that's Taylor Swift. And then you think about the other end of that, where it's like Maverick. Let's say Maverick has a band in his small town. And do you know how long and how many steps and how many hoops you have to jump through to actually start earning money in the current system as an artist? And then by the time you get there, you get like pennies on the dollar, if that. Whereas they just start building an audience and a following on Nostr. And every time they drop a new song, maybe they get 1 million sats. And they don't have to ask anybody's permission. They don't have to hit a certain amount of watch hours. They don't need a certain amount of subscribers to get that. If there's people, if their fans are on there and they're willing to send in, if they're getting value from it, they want to send some back, it's possible now. So that, I think that's going to be the big thing for Nostr. And that's why, you know, you should be, and that's just one aspect of it, right? I talk about the middleman too, but we don't need to get too far into it today. We got other stuff to talk about. But anyways, moral of the story, if you're not on Nostr yet, definitely take some time over the next month, holiday season, just explore, just play around a little bit. I got several videos on my channel talking about Nostr and how to get started. It's very simple, very, very, very simple. So maybe I'll do another Nostr video sometime. Daniel says, for reaching hardcore Bitcoiners, it's the place to be. If Gary Vee hadn't lost his mind to shit coins, he'd be there in a big way. Oh my God, no doubt. Gary Vee, that's his big thing. And that's what, when I was following Gary Vee, that was the one thing that made so much sense to me, was the find undervalued attention, which means that if you consider the creators and you consider the consumers, the people who consume the info and people who create the info, you want to find a place where there's not a whole lot of creators, but there's a lot of consumers. And that's kind of what Nostr is right now. And as we go along here, that gap's going to grow. But the cool thing for me is, like, anybody can be a creator on there. That's what I love about it. And I really encourage you, even if you're thinking like, well, I'm not on Nostr, I don't have anything to add to add a value to people. That's such a bad way to look at it. I just encourage you, just do it for a while. You don't have to join Nostr, you don't have to do anything, but like whatever you do in a day, you go to work, play with your dog, eat some food, you cook some food. You are learning stuff on Bitcoin, just stop and think, like, what I'm doing right now, would anybody else get value from this? Just take some pictures throughout the day at your job, and you'd be very surprised by the amount of people who could learn from that or would get value from that. An example, a guy on Nostr yesterday, he shared a recipe of these sourdough buns that he made. He might be watching the show, I don't know. But he shared his recipe of how he made these buns. He shared a picture of it, what his kids said about them, some tips for doing that. Like, you don't have to do anything crazy. Just post something that you think somebody out there might get value from. And if they don't, who cares? It doesn't cost you anything to do that. It's free. So just play around on there. Timber Crasher says, maybe for when you play music before the show, start live only on Zapstream for the first few minutes to start incentivizing people to join in Zapstream. I've thought about that, and I don't know if there's a way to do that. That's the tough part. But maybe. I mean, there's got to be a way, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. We got My Path to Fire over on the Zapstream. Good morning, My Path to Fire. I hope nobody's been zapping here, because nothing is coming in right now, which makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. Anyways, let's keep her moving here. Daniel says, more like Kanye. Yeah, more likely Kanye than Taylor Swift. She's a fiat grifter. You're right. I'm just saying, like, somebody with Taylor Swift size audience, like, just imagine the dent that would make. And it would probably happen, the good thing is that it's kind of slowly building before everybody comes there, just like Bitcoin did. My Path to Fire says, George, the U.S. selling their Bitcoin stack. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever's happening over there, like in these, you know what? Honestly, and I'm going to knock on wood here, but I expect something, I was expecting something very bad to happen between November and January before Trump won and took office. And so far it's been pretty chill. So, I mean, the US sells some Bitcoin, who cares? Hunter Biden gets pardoned. Is anybody actually surprised by that? You can't be. So if those are the worst things that happen, I mean, I always assumed that nothing would happen to Hunter Biden. I mean, the amount of stuff that has come out about that guy and still nothing has happened. My expectations were zero to begin with, and nothing changed yesterday. Kekistani says, George, you use Wavelike. It's pretty cool. I just started using Wavelike actually last week because Chris from Fractal Bitcoin posted a song on there that I love. Let's see if anybody's been zapping that. I gotta charge my phone here. Give me a sec. I got 3P. There we go. All right, let's see if people have actually been zapping on Wavelake. Let's check this out. Fractal Bitcoin. No, they haven't been. The greatest Bitcoin song that ever existed has 276 zaps on Wavelake. That is sad. That is sad. let me bring it up. I want you guys to start taking this stuff a little bit more seriously. People need to be using these tools. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've been using Wavelake, but I do use Fountain every day. I post a Fountain. I use Nostr every day. I post a Nostr. So here's what you need to do. Let me bring this up because I know it is a little bit confusing. I mean, even for myself, who's played around with this stuff quite a bit, it was confusing for me. So here's what you do. You go to wavelake.com or download the app from the App Store, Wavelake, WAVLAKE, Wavelake. And you can go to what you have to do there off the start. You can actually earn sats by listening to music. There should be somewhere where it says earn. It might not be on this one, but definitely on the app. So what you do here is you set up an account. You go to your profile, you click wallet, and then you click fund. And then you type in, let's say you want to fund 1,000 sats. That's what I did. So then you click fund, and then it gives you a QR code. So then you just scan that with your Lightning wallet, pay the invoice, and it'll fund your Wavelake account. And then you can go in there and you can zap Chris's song, the one that has a portion of it going to the rescue dogs. So you do that, you fund your wallet, and you can actually earn sats on Wavelake too for listening to songs every day. But then you just go to, there should be a search button somewhere here. Well, let's say I wanted to listen to this song. So Be the Wheel by Theo Katzman. And then you just click this button right here. You zap it. You can add a message, but you can do 10 sats, 100 sats, and then you boost it. And then that'll show up on the song and the artist gets those zaps. So this is a really good platform. I believe it's connected with Nostr as well, but definitely do that. And when you're on Wavelake, once you get everything set up, once you get your wallet funded, search Fractal Bitcoin, and you should be able to find the song. It's called Pump It Up, Smoke the Fools. It's a great song. And while I'm on that note, I want everybody here watching the show or listening later to go subscribe to our new Bitcoin Amigos YouTube channel. I think there's like 60 people who've subscribed on there already, but we can boost those numbers up quite a bit. So that's another ask today. I said one ask, but I knew there would be 5 more. Hey, Rick's in the chat. Good morning, Rick. $52,000 says, if I was to make a large purchase, would it recommend doing it all at once or maybe a few smaller purchases? Always buy Bitcoin as much as you can today, whenever you can. You know, let's say you get $10,000 come in somehow, you win a scratch ticket, dump 10,000 into Bitcoin. That's it. There's no sense dragging that out. But then, you know, once you get rid of your fat fiat stack there, then you start DCAing from there. But don't ever just have $10,000 and say, I'm going to spread it over the next month, especially where we are today. Because in 2 weeks from now, the price might be doubled and you might have half the sats you had. Martha Stewart's Chrome 45. 100K, George shaves the beard but keeps the mustache. Do you think? This is what I would look like. Pretty scary. Fu Manchu. I'm not doing that. I will shave. At some point. I don't think I've shaved my beard in like 10 years. But it's not going to be at 100K, maybe $1 million, maybe $1 million. Maybe $1 million. Okay, I got to fund this Zap stream here. We're funding everything today. Zap stream's broken. Zaps aren't showing up. Zaps aren't coming in. But we still got to pay the rent. Pets' heads are falling off. There we go. We're funded. Daniel says, I disagree. I think you should always DCA larger purchases, break it up into 10 purchases and buy that each day. Well, everybody's different. Whatever works for you. I don't know. I would just rather capture it today. I'm always afraid, especially in like a time like this. For the most part, I would agree with what Daniel said there. But just based on the timeline right now, based on the fact that we are literally in like the heat, and that's why I called this the urgency in Bitcoin, because we are in that time right now between the election and the new president taking office and creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Plus, we have a huge announcement coming from the Middle East in the next week or two. Plus, you have the Microsoft board meeting coming in the next week or two. Like, I just wouldn't risk it. I would just take whatever you have today. I mean, we've kind of consolidated for the last couple of weeks, so it's not like you're buying the run up. Just dump it today. And you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to waste any more time and energy worrying about whether the price is going to go down, whether it's going to go up. You just buy it. So, I very much value Daniel's opinion on everything in Bitcoin, but we disagree there. 21 Spielsat Siege 21. Hi, Jor bro. One of our favorite Germans in the chat this morning. Says your home is in the middle of nowhere, so beautiful and peaceful. It is. I mean, you step outside, you can just literally hear the silence. How far away is your closest neighbor? Not close. Not very close. Which is awesome. You can listen to music as loud as you want. You can yell as much as you want. You can shoot off fireworks. What the hell? I am alone? James Bond, I don't know where you are, but we got 75 people in here right now. I don't know what you're watching. Bond's always in a predicament. Oh, I don't like this, Coinos. I don't like what's happening here. Fuck. Okay, well, let's get to some news. How about that? We're going to skip the mempool. We're going to skip the metrics. Not much has changed from yesterday. So if you watched yesterday's show, then, okay, let's see what YouTube says here. Hi, 88 Sats Radio. Due to a copyright match, your stream was interrupted. Streams are interrupted when copyright content is detected. After copyrighted material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. Okay, well, that doesn't help me much. That doesn't tell me if my channel's shut down or not. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. It just goes to show the absolute need and necessity for something like Nostr, where shit like that doesn't happen. Okay, let's start with some XRP news. Oh, yeah, of course, YouTube. YouTube's going to shut me down. Hey, wait a second. Look at this. Crypto Princess. Hey, Jor, I'm lucking out on your live stream again, or lurking on your live stream again. It was a pleasure talking to you yesterday. I've uploaded our interview. So there you go. There's a new interview. If you don't get tired of me after listening to me for an hour today, then you can go over to Crypto Princess's channel and check out the interview. It was a bit of a different interview for sure. It was more of a focus on like, my story a little bit, my background, how I got here. So if you're interested in that, then check it out. It was awesome. She's over in the UK, and I really enjoyed the chat with her. I think she's going to do some very big things in the world. She's a Bitcoiner too. Don't let her name fool you, Crypto Princess. She's not a Bitcoin maxi, but she definitely is a Bitcoiner. So thanks for popping in today, and thanks for having me on your show yesterday. Okay, XRP. How we looking? Crypto Princess might not like this. Hopefully she's not an XRP holder. She called herself a degen meme coin investor. But here we go. XRP, how we been doing? Well, pretty good. If you're holding XRP right now, you're pretty happy. But are you? Let's see. This is from Marcel over on Twitter. If you invested $10,000 in XRP on January 1st, 2018, today you'd still have $10,000. I mean, charts don't lie. You can see what's happening here, right? You spot a trend. So for a week here, XRP was super valuable back in 2018. 2021, XRP was super valuable for about a week. 2024, XRP super valuable. Will it sustain? I don't know. But I don't think that that's a great investment. And that's the problem, is like there's going to be a lot of people in this same spot where you can see the price there. That was 231. And so it's the same as it is today, or it's a little bit higher now, I think. But this is when most people buy. Like nobody's buying here. Nobody's buying here. People buy right here. People buy right here. And then all of a sudden it crashes. And then they're spooked. Then they blame Bitcoin for the next 4 years. So XRP, definitely not a coin you want to be holding. And it is absolutely disgusting how many people have been talking about XRP and texting me about XRP. It's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Why? So let's, you know what? Let's take this one step further, like we always do. Our favorite thing to do, take things one step further. Just to really prove a point here to the XRP lovers. All right, let me share this tab instead. Bitcoin price, Jan 1, 2018. Let's see. Bitcoin price, Jan 1, 2018. $13,657. Not bad, actually. I thought it was going to be lower than that. 13,657. Okay, so let's go back to this tab. Let's add some nice graphics to this. And so how many Bitcoin would you get for 10,000? BTC bought. So you got 10,000, you divide it by that, and you get 0.73, 73 million sats. So what's 73 million sats worth today? 0.73 times $93,000, 67,000. So if you bought XRP back in January 1st, 2018, you would have $10,000 worth. And if you bought Bitcoin instead on January 1st, 2018, you would have 67,000. It's just math. It's just math. Conway Yest. What a good name. What a good comment here. What's stopping the government of the world from seizing Bitcoin just like they did with gold? Who's the government of the world? Is that a new government I've never heard of before? Well, a lot of things would be stopping them from doing that. Number one, if somebody comes to your door and you got gold in your house, I don't know if they went door to door or not, but they can find the gold pretty easily. Probably in the safe, maybe it's buried in the ground, but they can find the gold pretty easily. And you can lie all you want and say, there's no gold here. But if they look hard enough, they're going to find it. The difference with Bitcoin, though, is that you can actually take possession of that. You can't do that with gold. You can hold it. You can put it in your drawer. You can put it in your safe. You can bury it in the ground. But you actually can't take full possession of it like you can with Bitcoin. Because with Bitcoin, if you got 12 words and you memorize those 12 words and you don't leave any paper copies of that anywhere, you truly own that asset. Unless somebody wants to somehow extract it from your brain, nobody can take it from you. So yes, it is some work to get to that point in terms of memorizing 12 words. But that's why words were invented, for that reason, right? That's why the seed phrase, the 12 words, 24 words, that's why it exists, for people to memorize. I do not recommend you memorize it and throw out the steel, titanium, and paper there. But it is something. Because if you actually look at what happened there with the seed phrase, the actual private key itself within Bitcoin looks very much like a public key in terms of like the BC1, whole bunch of numbers and letters. The private key looks very similar to that. And, you know, I watched some Andre Antonopoulos last week, and he talked about this much better than I can in terms of the key pair and how it all works and the specifics of it, the numbers and letters, and the probability of somebody hacking that. But that basically what that does is this new BIP, the Bitcoin improvement proposal, that translates that private key into 12 or 24 words. That's why they do it. So you can memorize it. You wouldn't be able to memorize a string of numbers and letters, but because it's now a BIP, you can do that. So that's kind of the purpose there. And that's why nobody would be able to seize it from you unless they hacked your brain. Yeah, I completely agree with this. This is how the world should be, Adam, right? If someone uses your song on YouTube, it should automatically be zapped. Like if I use that song, if everything worked as it should, and I wanted to start my show with that song today, they could say like, here's the bounty. If you want to use the song in your live stream, you have to pay us 200 sats or 1,000 sats or whatever that is. And so I'm like, okay, well, zap it, use it. That's it. Then I can use it however I want. They get something for it. I get something for it. In this case, my stream gets stopped, and the people who copyrighted that content get nothing from it. At least I was giving them some exposure. Maybe somebody watched this, watched the stream and liked the song and went and watched it and supported them. But as it is now, they get nothing from it. I get my channel shut down and they get nothing from it. So yes, it just makes more sense, right? That, if I want to use it, I should have to pay a little bit for it. I can zap them. They get that. I get value from it. But you know how things are in the world. Nothing really makes sense like it should. Okay, what else do we have here for some news? We haven't had much news lately. We've been too busy in the chat. This was another big one today. So we did MicroStrategy Mondays yesterday. The clip went viral for my channel anyways. For this little wee channel, went viral. People really enjoyed that one. But somebody also said in the same comments that we should be talking about Mara. We should be talking about Marathon. They're doing the same thing as MicroStrategy. Why don't we do Marathon Mondays? Well, here you go. You get some Marathon Tuesdays instead. And before I do this, let's take this down for a sec. Let's take this down. It's important to know MicroStrategy. If you're comparing, if you're thinking about investing some of your pension in MicroStrategy or Marathon, MicroStrategy is by far, even though you can get Marathon for cheaper, it's like 25 bucks a share. MicroStrategy is much preferred. Not even close. So that's the first thing. Marathon, they're miners. I do not invest in Bitcoin mining companies. Way too hard of an industry, way too tough of a business. It's tough. So they're doing the same kind of thing here. And the third thing is that Marathon came out earlier this year and announced that they're actually going to be diversifying and now mining Caspa, which was a huge red flag for me. So I do not like Marathon. I do not like talking about Marathon, but I think it is important to talk about this because this just goes to show how much demand there is for this thing that MicroStrategy is doing. So it says Marathon's 2031 convertible debt note offering was oversubscribed and upsized from 805 million to 1 billion at 0% interest. 0% interest. So somebody's given Marathon $1 billion, 0% interest on that. 5 years ago, before MicroStrategy started doing this, this would have If somebody would have done that, they would have been put into the mental institution that day. You're giving somebody $1 billion and taking zero interest in return for that. You are officially mentally ill. You are a crazy person. You are checking into the mental institution today. But fast forward 5 years, and all of a sudden, not only do they get that, but they're oversubscribed by $200 million. So that just goes to show more than anything else how much demand there is for these big institutions, this big capital. They want some exposure to Bitcoin. And this is the best way they're doing it, the best way that they see fit through convertible debt. 0% interest. That is so crazy to me. Even as a Bitcoiner, that is so crazy to me. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago on Rabbit Hole Recap, they were talking about, they might even start going, if the demand continues to increase like this, Saylor might actually get negative interest rates on this. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if, so what that would look like, it would be somebody wants to give Saylor $1 billion, and not only are they not going to get any interest back, they're actually going to pay to subscribe to that. They're going to pay to give Saylor money. And you have to remember the reason why this makes sense is because they're able to convert that debt, that $1 billion, they're able to convert that into shares at a later date. So that's how excited and that's how much demand there is for this type of thing, for these big institutions, for this big capital, because they can't actually buy Bitcoin yet and hold it themselves. They have to do it through intermediaries like MicroStrategy and Marathon. So, I mean, that again, that just goes to show how much demand there is for this. So the people calling this a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, it's not. It's just a vehicle that allows this big money to get exposure to Bitcoin in the best way that they see fit, which is convertible debt offerings through these public companies, through Mara, through MicroStrategy, through Semler. And it does not appear to be slowing down. It will eventually, yes. Once this big money can actually hold Bitcoin themselves and they see the value in that and they have a whole team of people to manage their Bitcoin, then there won't be any demand for this anymore. But I don't know when that's going to be. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. It could be 20 years. You have to remember how slow things work in these big pension funds and these big institutions. They have a lot of people to report to, and there's a lot of regulations on what they can and can't do. So crazy. Rick says controlled celebs like Taylor Swift won't be pushing Bitcoin. Yeah, that's kind of consensus here. But you never know. If she's smart, and I think that she is, she's, stupid in a lot of ways, and controlled. But I don't think she's dumb. Yeah, and she might have, she'll probably have her own shitcoin eventually. I think everybody will. I might even have one. But it'll be different, and it won't be a shitcoin, though. That'll be the difference between, let's say that there was a Jorcoin. And let's say that back in the day, Jason, in December 2023, Jason bought a Jorcoin for 1 cent. And all of a sudden we've seen, the channel grow. We got some money coming in. If that's the case, then yes, I have to disclose my financials. I would have to disclose how much the token holders are going to get. What's the perks to that? So there is definitely a need for this. And I do think it's going to come in the future where, I probably won't have one, but people like Taylor Swift will. And it'll be, it'll be interesting because it just makes so much sense. And even Saylor's talked about this in one of his recent presentations. But at the same time, it will be all based on timing, right? So if you could find an artist that you want to invest in, let's say that like he's this big up and comer, nobody knows about him yet, and you want to invest in him at 1 cent and his potential, you think that, this coin might go to $3 in a couple of years from now. Well, you have to value that compared to Bitcoin. And that's why the majority of coins like this will trend towards zero compared to Bitcoin. But there will be ones in a short period of time that do actually outperform Bitcoin. So something to keep keep in mind here as we go forward. There are a lot of coins out there that won't ever have that kind of thing, that sort of value compared to Bitcoin, but there definitely will be some. Okay, I'm getting a little bit worried here, folks. Okay, we got a couple zaps here now. So I got 2 zaps for 240 sat or 420 sats from Zapstream. So I don't know what happened to Daniel's. I don't know. Bodhi says, zap twice and not showing up in the chat. I see it there in Coinos. Daniel says, you've been on fire in the Signal chat lately. So interested in those business opportunities that are presenting themselves. I'm telling you. This is just the very beginning of what's happening here on this channel and in Living in the Future community. There's a group chat within the Living in the Future community right now, the Project Potential group chat. That's where we're going to all invest X amount of Bitcoin, put it into a fund, hold on to it for a few years, and start investing in different opportunities around the world. And it's just still very early days, but I do think these next couple of years, when we're just brainstorming and strategizing of what we're going to do with the capital, it's a lot of fun. So I think we have over 30 people in there, or at least 30 people who have reached out to me, and I haven't added them to the chat yet. But if you're interested, if you're a Bitcoiner and you want to be part of like the opportunity, the businesses, the potential project fund or project potential, sorry, then definitely check it out. Right at the top of the screen here, it says Living in the Future. Join that for a while, join the chat, and you can always leave. There's no pressure at all. Like nobody's sent in any sats yet. It's just the very early days of this thing. It's exciting, very exciting. Mikkel says, sup, you sat, stack, and sleuths. Remember, XRP is going to get rug pulled. 100%. 100%. There you go. Buck 52,000. Loaded my MicroStrategy bag yesterday. H. Hatton says, you've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up? You've got to pump it up. I still think that that's the best Bitcoin pump up song that exists. Still, it's a little bit old, but it still gets you going every time. Hey, Alan's in chat. Good morning, Alan. Good to see you, my friend. Gensler is resigning January 20th. Interesting. I think he announced that last week, right? Jets is buying more Bitcoin. Everybody's buying more Bitcoin. Sunraku, do you think we'll ever see 80K again? I don't know. We might. Would I be mad if it happened? No. I'll just buy more Bitcoin. I don't think it'll happen, though. I really don't. Could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. Jet says, even the other crypto channels ripping on XRP for the past year more than hyping it up for the past few days. Yeah. It is disgusting. Disgusting. And Jet says, FYI, gold is never illegal or confiscated in Canada. That's true. That was not the world that did that. That was the US government that did that. And that was when they defaulted on their debt, right? Back in the 30s, they defaulted on their debt. And they said, you know what? You gotta fund us. We can't fund ourselves. We screwed up a little bit here. Okay, let's talk about this next thing here. This is a big one. I haven't seen too many people talking about this, but this is a massive thing that's happening here. And you know what? I don't love Coinbase. In fact, very much the opposite. I think that if you have a Coinbase account, you should close that and start buying Bitcoin somewhere else. But a lot of people use Coinbase. And so this says Coinbase now allows users to purchase cryptocurrency with Apple Pay. I mean, that's kind of the thing. We have a perfect storm right now of things happening between the Middle East, between the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, between companies like MicroStrategy, Marathon, other public companies. I think there was about 10 or 15 in the last week who announced that they're adding Bitcoin to their treasury. But then you have retail. And I think that the one thing for retail that's going to make a big difference here is the friction. If you can find a way to eliminate the friction for people learning how to buy Bitcoin and hold it themselves, that's a big thing. So I'll give you an example. When I started buying Bitcoin for the first time back in whenever it was, 2019, 2020, on Binance, I pretty much had to like pay $500 just to learn how to do this. And maybe I didn't need to, but I did. Paid $500 US to learn how to buy, send, hold, stake. Wasn't staking Bitcoin, but I was staking other things at the time. But that's a huge hurdle for people. There is opportunity when there's hurdles, but at the same time, this next wave of retail adoption is going to want zero friction. And so at the time, I had to log into Binance. I had to find somebody who's willing to sell USDT Tether. I had to send them an e-transfer. I wasn't sending it to Binance. I was sending it to this random person online. I had to send them an e-transfer. And when they received that, they sent me USDT in exchange. And with that USDT, I could swap it into Bitcoin. And then I had to figure out what to do with it from there. I had to either leave it on Binance or I had to send it to my wallet, which is the same kind of thing now. But at the time, they were very non-transparent with their fees. And I paid so much stupidly with a whole bunch of UTXOs, paid a bunch of fees, had no idea what I was doing. But now, Coinbase now allows users to purchase cryptocurrency with Apple Pay. Like, think about that. That's 4 years difference. How much easier that is for somebody to log into Coinbase, use their Apple Pay, which everybody has set up on their phone already. You click buy and you store it in Coinbase. That's zero friction. That's like buying a new pair of shoes online. You don't even easier than that because you don't have to put in a shipping address. Ideally, you move it off Coinbase, but even so, there's going to be a lot of people who just get a Coinbase account, use Apple Pay, buy some Bitcoin, store it on Coinbase. And for the most part, unless something crazy happens to Coinbase, that Bitcoin is going to be there. Zero friction. So that's a big part of, this next wave of adoption is just reducing the friction. So that's one of many things I think that it's just going to become more and more popular for things like Apple Pay, things like PayPal, things like, I don't know, what's the other one in the States? Venmo. And that'll eventually just evolve into, you have this app on your phone and you have your stable coins, you have your Bitcoin, you have your XRP. Just kidding. Apple shares, MicroStrategy shares, Microsoft shares, maybe a portion of an investment fund that you're in El Salvador, your shares in that, maybe a fractionalization of a hotel chain in Dubai. You have that on there. You can swap back and forth and sell it. Everything's tokenized. That's where we're moving to. And you're going to be able to, you go to pay for something. So, just think about this. Let's say that Bitcoin's running up, you cash them out, maybe you buy more shares in that building in Dubai. Maybe that's running up, you cash some of that out, you buy some Bitcoin instead. You're going to be able to atomically swap all of these different tokens. And then when you actually go to buy something, you'll probably either swap it into Lightning, where you can pay the retailer, or you'll swap it into stable coins, where you can pay the retailer. So you'll be able to swap all of your assets, or you have possession of, you have custody of on your phone. It's going to be all KYC'd, unfortunately, but that's the reality of it. That's why it's important to start building networks and communities within Bitcoin where you can go around that old system. So a lot of people think that we're going to get rid of the old system. It's just going to disappear. It's not. It's just going to be on steroids. It's going to be 24/7, tokenized, fractionalized on your phone. And you're going to be able to, whatever you want to buy, whatever that retailer accepts for payment, you're going to be able to pay them in that. And if you don't have it on your phone, you're going to be able to swap it into that at the counter. So let's say you keep majority of it. Like I said there, you got Bitcoin, stable coin, shares in a building in Dubai, MicroStrategy shares. But let's say the retailer, let's say you go to a restaurant and they only accept Dogecoin. So while you're eating your meal, you see that they only accept Doge. Maybe it's like a Doge themed restaurant, or maybe they just like the community. And then you just swap it. Swap some Bitcoin for Doge. Pay your bill. So, I mean, just with all that in mind, that just understand that there's going to be a lot of these things that exist. You might even own like a Joe Rogan token in there that you can swap and pay for your meal. So there's going to be a ton of these different things. All of these tokens are going to exist. But the best place to store that over time is going to be in Bitcoin. And then when you need these other altcoins, when you need this form of payment, that's when you swap it at that time. But the best place during that process to store your wealth will be in Bitcoin. And hopefully the majority is actually kept in cold storage with your own UTXOs, which most people won't have at that time, but you're here now, so you will. So then you can just send it to your wallet if you need to. If you're out of Bitcoin, you just send it from your cold storage to your wallet, and that's how you pay for stuff. So this is just one of the first steps in that process, but it's just going to keep piling up. The US, yes, the Silk Road. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Mikkel's talking about the US potentially selling their Bitcoin, but I don't know if they will. I mean, they moved coins a couple months ago too, and nothing really happened with that. Mikkel says, Joe, would you rug pull us like that 13-year-old who started a meme coin and streamed him cashing out 30G, then flipping the chat off and ending the stream? What do you think? I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it is important because you got to think through all this kind of stuff, right? So here's the thing. I mean, everybody in Bitcoin likes to think of altcoins and meme coins like this example, and everybody gets rug pulled. But I don't think that that's going to be the case because there's going to be a whole lot of reputations at stake, right? And it's not something where you just like, it's going to be different from 2020 where you bought this picture of a Bored Ape and you got to go to like these different parties. It's going to be something where you can actually invest in somebody early on for a low rate, and you get to see their growth and you get to see their financials and where their money comes from. And you get a portion of that, and you might get paid out in Bitcoin. You might get paid out in their tokens, and there will be a lot of rugs that happen. No doubt about that. But there will also be a lot of things that aren't rugged. There's a lot of people out there like Joe Rogan. Do you think he would actually rug his audience? Truly. Like once we get to that point of like that kind of person tokenizing their content, their audience, their following, their community, there's no way he does that. So like personally, I might consider buying a Joe Rogan token. Maybe, or I'll just store it in Bitcoin. But if I think that the Joe Rogan coin over the next couple of years has a greater potential than Bitcoin does, then I might hold a portion of my wealth from in that token for a while. So I just think we should clear that. You know, it's good to have that as a reminder of how many of these coins have been rugged through the years. But you also have to understand that that's going to be a big thing in the future. And there's going to be actual tokens with actual value that people can invest in and make money in, just like the normal world, right? This kind of stuff has been happening forever, where there's a new up and coming artist and you can buy a share in them essentially. And then as they grow, as they become more popular, as their community grows and their streams grow, then you get a portion of that. But this is just going to be a much more efficient way to do that in terms of token. And you can swap it for Bitcoin and for stable coins and for whatever else you want to. Just going to be a much more efficient way to do it. Yeah, we should start an Arnie coin. See, stuff like that. No, that's dumb. But Jason says his dog got taken for ransom. Don't want to do Arnie like that. Whose dog was that? Oh, the kid. Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't follow that too closely. Hey, we got the grinder in the chat. Look at that. And Craig. Plunger. Zapstream's buzzing. Grinder says it's just all foreign exchange and no different from paying with your credit card when traveling. You pay in your currency, merchant receives theirs. Exactly. Exactly. And if you don't understand that, then I think that you need to, well, you're here now, so you don't need to do anything. We got Bren in the chat. I can't believe how many Bitcoiners out there banking on alt season. Yeah, it is kind of disgusting, isn't it? And that's why I love a place like Nostr, because you don't see any of that on there. The Bitcoiners on Nostr are very focused on Bitcoin and building on Nostr and building in Bitcoin. So if you want to break from the alt season bullshit, get onto Nostr. Lawrence, look at this. Oh, of course, the internet's going to crash on us. Why not? Why would it? Why would things work today? Okay, we're back. Lawrence Greenwood, any relation to Len or Lee? Not Len. Lee Greenwood. U.S. government making cheap set. I mean, the price is kind of up $3,000 from when we started the stream, so I don't know if they're making it cheap. Brennan, it's like Gouda when it's clearly Bree season, baby. Step into my office. You're fucking fired. Oh, man. Good reminder here from Rick. Another Rick. You can't have too many Ricks in the chat, that's for sure. Smash the likes. That's a good idea. All right, I'm having a hard time keeping up with everything here. I do want to talk about one thing, though. And I want to go back to the start of the chat here with Timber Crasher. So Timber Crasher said, good morning, Bitcoiners. Stay focused on the winner. Do not get distracted by alts pumping. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. Let's try this. Let's try this again. We're going back to the chat here. This is a comment earlier from Muslim Bitcoiner. And he says, this altcoin pump is definitely a coordinated attack on retailers to ignore Bitcoin. I did not think about this, but I agree with this. But I do want to talk about something else that very much relates to this, what Muslim Bitcoiner said here. And this is a very short clip that we're going to watch. We're going to tie it back to Muslim Bitcoiner's comment here on the distraction of maybe this is a coordinated attack on Bitcoin. And we'll explain why. This is our good friend, Tom Lee. Ready? Here we go.
Do you want to, we always get a Bitcoin comment from you before we let you go. Normally it got stuck under 100. That's a pretty, it's a psychological level, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think some of this could be, there's a lot of folks who don't want Bitcoin over 100,000, and some of it may be the exchanges themselves are concerned because there is a pretty low supply of Bitcoin available over the counter. So you have a
Let's listen to that one more time.
there's a lot of folks who don't want Bitcoin over 100,000, and some of it may be the exchanges themselves are concerned because there is a pretty low supply of Bitcoin available over the counter. So you have a supply shortage, and if Bitcoin makes a move above 100,000, I think there'd be a big chase. So I'm still confident Bitcoin's going to close much higher before year end.
Before year end.
Before year end, yeah.
So break $100,000 before the end of the year?
Yeah, well above 100,000 before year end. It's just a matter of time.
It's December 2nd. It's not that long, Tom. So it's going to do it in the next 4 weeks.
Tom makes bold short-term
I know,
calls.
you're nuts, and they all come, usually they come true.
Okay, so that's a developing situation for sure in Bitcoin. So Tom Lee, going back to Muslim Bitcoiner's comment here, altcoin pump is definitely a coordinated attack on retailers to ignore Bitcoin. So, I mean, at this point here, you have to understand what's happening, right? There's so much demand for Bitcoin right now, not at a retail level, but like at a big money institutional level. You have MicroStrategy, and this is why I titled it the urgency in Bitcoin right now, because Michael Saylor came out a month ago now and said, over these next 3 years, we're going to spend $42 billion on Bitcoin. We're going to buy $42 billion worth of Bitcoin. And if you noticed, he's been buying it every week. He's not waiting like once a quarter. They're going to do a fourth of that or a 12th of that. He's buying every week. He knows the urgency here. He knows that the supply on the over-the-counter exchanges are drying up, which is being communicated to the exchanges who have a very low balance of Bitcoin. So you have this huge demand of Bitcoin from MicroStrategy, from Marathon, from Dubai, from the Middle East, from the US in a month from now, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, from pensions, from all these public companies buying Bitcoin. But the problem is, unlike any other asset that has ever existed in history before, there's only so much Bitcoin available, right? And so if these big institutions and these exchanges and the people who are kind of responsible for, buying and selling Bitcoin, the exchanges, the platforms, the over-the-counter exchanges, they know that they either have two ways here to keep the price down, or to not only keep the price down, but also accumulate as much Bitcoin as they can, right? Because they're trying to accumulate right now. They're trying everything that they can to keep everybody's eyes off of Bitcoin because they want to accumulate as much as possible because there's only so much available. So the best way to do that, and this is what Muslim Bitcoiners are saying here, is to make the other altcoins, which have literally zero value, make them run up, get people distracted, get people chasing those. Because when they're doing that, then that takes the eyes off of Bitcoin. And some people might even be stupid enough to be trading their Bitcoin for these altcoins. So that's one way, is they say, you know what? Don't worry about Bitcoin. Don't worry about the one with the very true scarce supply. Don't look at that one. Look at XRP. It's going up. It's doubled in the last week. Everybody's talking about that one. Nobody's talking about Bitcoin right now. And that's what they want. Because if everybody was talking about Bitcoin, the over-the-counters would run out. The exchanges would run out. This price would shoot to $5 million in not a large amount of time. And when that happens, when everybody's interested in Bitcoin, when everybody's asking about Bitcoin, that means there's less available for these big institutions who want the Bitcoin. So they're using things like these altcoins, and they've done this every cycle, but this was even before the big boys were here. So every cycle, there's a supply crunch that happens, and it's going to be nothing like we're going to see this time around with the countries, the public companies, the pension funds, everybody buying. So I 100% agree with Muslim Bitcoiner. I didn't think about that before, but I do think that they are trying to keep the price of Bitcoin down because they're running out of Bitcoin. And so the urgency there is just to understand like how scarce these sats are. Truly. There has never been an asset like Bitcoin, not even anything close to Bitcoin. Gold would be the closest. But we know how much gold is out there. We know that there's a 2% inflation rate every year. That's kind of what they control with it anyways. I think China just found like $800 billion worth of gold in a reserve. It might have been more than that. But anyways, the point is that there's never been an asset like Bitcoin with a truly fixed supply. So we are going to see the greatest supply crunch of all time. It's going to happen probably sooner than we think. But in the meantime, they're going to try to keep people's eyes away from Bitcoin for as long as they can. And that's why these alts are pumping, not because they're worth anything, just because they want people's eyes and attention off of Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. I want to show this too, because this is I don't know how serious this is, but it's something to discuss for sure. And the show's running already late, so we're just going to keep it going today. So here we go. Let's watch this. So this is for the Canadians, and this is for the Americans.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the US to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor. Right.
But more on that detail with the panel. Peter,
I mean, as a Canadian, there was a poll on Twitter this morning, and it said, what would you do if the US invaded Canada? I think it was like fight back, join them, or do nothing. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Actually, I might not be able to find it now. But anyways, 50% of people in Canada said join them. And I would be in that crowd. That's what I voted for too. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if Canada became the 51st state? It would be, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, think about the resources here in Canada. Think about what Bitcoin is going to unlock in terms of resources here in Canada. This country has been so poorly managed for the last couple of decades and beyond. Canada should be one of the most, if not the most abundant country on earth. But instead we have people living on the fucking streets. We have people waiting 10, 20 hours in emergency because we can't get doctors here. Because our country is so unhealthy and there's so much sickness and illness in this country. And it's because it's been so poorly managed. That's it. That's the only reason for it. Canada should be the most abundant country on earth. So, I mean, if you just think like what could be, think about the potential of what a country could be. Like, imagine the US and Canada joining forces and actually having an adult in the room to utilize the resources that are available in this country and in America. And you combine that with Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. It's crazy. So it seems like a kind of a far-fetched dream, but is it? I don't know. I mean, think about it. If America invaded Canada tomorrow, how long would that war last? 10 minutes? If that, maybe 8 minutes. So yeah, crazy, but also very possible. Yeah, Bodie says if Canada became the 51st state, we'd have one hell of a hockey team. Yeah, no doubt. That is the truth. All right, what do we got here? I'm going to just catch up on some comments, and then we're going to shut her down for the day because we're already way too far over time. I'm trying to be good, but it's hard. Geodesic interpolation. Bitcoin gas fees are pretty expensive, though. Is it not the case that it would cost me like $30 to transfer $10 worth of Bitcoin? No. Where'd you get that information from? I mean, it could possibly, if that $10 worth of Bitcoin was made up of like 20 UTXOs of 500 sats each, then yeah, it would. But I mean, if you're using layer 2 Lightning, it would cost you a fraction of a penny to send that. And even if you had that $10 worth of Bitcoin in one UTXO, well, let's why would we talk in hypotheticals right now? I'm going to give you I'm not going to show you my Sparrow wallet, but I'm going to give you the exact cost if you were to send $10 worth of Bitcoin right now on layer 1. Because why not? It's easy for me to sit up here and say that's not the case, but I'm going to give you the exact amount that it would cost you. Okay, so we want to send, I'm going to need a receive address here. Okay, so we're going to send, I'm going to title this Geodesic. We're not going to send it, but we're going to title it that. So what's $10 worth of Bitcoin? Here in Canada, it's about 10,000 sats. Okay, so right now, if I wanted to send 10,000 sats at medium priority, it would cost me 90 cents. But if I was in no rush and I wanted to wait it out for the day, it would cost me, what's the lowest here? 30 cents. And that's a layer one. And nobody's going to be sending $10 worth of Bitcoin around on layer one. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, not for at least 20 years, probably. So like, it's not based on the value of your Bitcoin. It's based on the amount of data or the amount of UTXOs in your transaction that you're sending, because you have to keep in mind here that with the Bitcoin network, the blockchain, every 10 minutes, there's a new block that's mined. Within every block, there's just a bunch of transactions. And so with that, there's only so much space available in each block. Data, like megabytes. I think it's 4 megabytes per block. So you want to have as little amount of data in your transaction to get into that block, and the lower the amount of data, the lower the amount of your megabytes or V bytes within that transaction, the less it's going to cost you. So it could be 200 Bitcoin that you're sending, and that would have been no different than sending 10,000 sats. It's all based on the UTXO size and the amount of data in that transaction that you're sending. So keep that in mind. It has nothing to do with the amount of Bitcoin. It has everything to do with the amount of data in that transaction. So that's something to keep in mind here for every Bitcoiner, is you should be looking into UTXOs. You should be looking at what it means. You should be downloading a wallet like Sparrow where you can manage those, because if you're not paying attention to that, that's going to cost you a lot of sats in the future. Says, never mind, it's $5 US worth of gas fees. No, it's 90 cents medium priority. It's 30 cents low priority. And you're not going to be, if you're paying for a meal on Bitcoin, you're not going to be using layer one. You're going to be using Lightning. And not only for meals, like I don't want to go on too long here. I could spend another 3 hours on here talking about this. But it's going to be Lightning. Nobody's going to pay on layer one. The layer one's only going to be used for like bank wires. As we know, bank wires today, that's what layer one's going to be used for. So like countries settling transactions, banks settling transactions, big money is going to move around on layer one because it's the most secure. And it settles within 10 minutes, right? So with Lightning, that's what's going to be used for paying bills at restaurants. That's what's going to be used for paying people to work, probably, depending on your timeline. That's going to be used for buying clothes, maybe paying rent. Like nobody's going to use layer one to do this kind of stuff. It's all going to be over layer two. And we're still far from that for sure, but that's what is coming. Shell, I was just playing around. We're just having fun. I'm not scamming the followers here. Take it easy. Buy Bitcoin, shut up. Agreed. Take it easy. There's no Jora coins coming out. Or is there? Just kidding. Have a nice day. Oh, you missed it. See, that's the problem with waiting too long to answer questions. He missed it. Now we have geodesic interpolation. Is always going to think that Bitcoin's never going to work because it's too expensive. And I even did a live tutorial on the show for him. And as Craig says, yeah, you should be thinking about Liquid, because send $10 costs less than a penny, just like Lightning. But Liquid's actually better than Lightning in a lot of ways. And it's very inexpensive to use. Sorry, folks, I'm running behind here. I can't get to all these questions today and comments. Hey, Boomy's in the chat. Morning, Boomy. Morning, Bitcoin Buddha. What about Bitcoin Cash? Never under any circumstances. Doesn't make any sense. You might go to a country where they accept Bitcoin Cash and it's popular, but then you just swap your Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash at that time. You don't store you don't store your wealth in Bitcoin Cash, right? Okay, well, that was a good episode. I think we actually have. I usually base the episode quality based on the amount of clips that we can take from it, and I think there's quite a few good ones today. So I'm going to jump over and I'm going to do the second part of the show, the podcast, the new potential, or what's it called? Project Potential. It's been good. We got 4 episodes on there. I've done it 4 days in a row. I said it wasn't going to be a daily thing, but it has become a daily thing. So I just want to encourage you here. I want to leave you with a couple asks here, and I don't ask for much. I have kind of today, but I don't usually ask for much. But I want you to do a couple things today. Number 1, if you learned anything today, if you were entertained for an hour and a half today, if this stream somehow improved your day at all, then you can send some sats to our best friend, best dog in the world, Arnie. That's his Lightning address. And if you don't want to use the QR code, or if you're watching this on your phone, you can send it to adoptedson98@walletofsatoshi.com. So that's the first one. If you learned anything, and if not, if you don't have any sats to send, at least consider liking the show, leaving a nice little heart in the comments, or sharing it on your social platforms. That would be very helpful. So that's his Lightning address there. Second thing I want to ask of you today. I want you to check out the new podcast, Project Potential. There has been quite a few people listening to it, which is really good to see. But I do think that people who watch the show, it's not just a repeat of the show anymore. It's a completely different topic. It's about 20, 30, 40 minutes talking about something deep in Bitcoin. And so far, we've talked about the Bitcoin piggy bank, the funds, a new way to save in Bitcoin. I think people should check out that one for sure if you don't have time for the other ones. But number 2 is finding success in the new economy. What kind of traits, personalities, businesses, people will be successful in the new economy? The opportunity of a millennium, where I sang some Backstreet Boys on there. And the last one we did yesterday was Bitcoin is digital capital, talking about the future of tokenization, of fractionalization, and how everything's going to be used as collateral, including your Bitcoin. So again, those are all about 30 minutes long. They're podcast audio only. You can find them on Spotify. You can find them on Fountain. And if you like it, if you enjoyed it and you want to send some back, you can send it over the Boostagram. Send a boost in. 100 sats, 200 sats, whatever it is. And today was our Tunes Day, the Bitcoin Jukebox. So we started the show. We got the channel shut down for a little while, but we got back pretty quick. So if you have a request for next show, send in a Zap. I think the highest right now is like 1,000 sats. So if you send in a boost higher than that, or a Zap higher than that with your song request, that's how we'll start the next Tuesday show. And hopefully we won't get the stream suspended again. Hey, we got Sergio, one of our favorite folks from Nostr. Zapstream isn't loading for me in my browser for desktop. Yeah, man, Zapstream has been really, really tough, but we had a good amount of people in there today. Good chat. Justin Trudeau, look at this. Also known as Justine Castro. Says shitcoiners pouring into YouTube, set them on the right path, Jor. I mean, that's a great point. That's a great point. And so maybe one more ask today is whatever social platforms you use, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Nostr, Substack, anything. Just take a clip, take this show today, and just say, like, there's going to be a lot of distractions over the next couple months. There's going to be a lot of people who don't have your best interests in mind. But focus on the signal, focus on Bitcoin. And this is a good channel that talks about only Bitcoin, talks about how shitty shit coins are. And that's the only thing that we can do. The only thing that we can do here is try to spread this message as far as we can. So you can help with that. I can't do much from where I am, but if we had everybody watching the show today, spread it across their socials, that's what we want. We want more people talking about Bitcoin, focused on Bitcoin. So thank you for that reminder. And I try to do that every day on here, as you know. But Bodhi says, some cartoonist skilled person needs to visually illustrate layer 1 like an interstate highway with tolls, and layer 2 being like backside roads, cheaper but takes longer. Not sure it's a great example, but pictures work well. I agree with that. And that's actually, Bodhi, something that I'm working on kind of in my spare time, I guess, is something like that, where I want to come out with like an illustration / design ebook for people where there's no words, there's no like terms, because I just feel like when people hear the term UTXO, their brain automatically shuts off. If you just looked at it from a first principles, no terminology, just like a visual of what's happening there and why it makes so much sense, I feel like people would learn that way. So I kind of want to do something like that over the next couple months and hopefully release that for people. But that's a good call, Bodhi. I like stuff like that. I think that people should be more focused on like what's actually happening there versus like trying to memorize the different terms, trying to figure out, like mempool, UTXO, sats per vbyte, like all these things. As soon as people hear those terms, their brain just clicks off because it's new to them. Whereas if you just looked at it like from again, first principles view of it, it makes a lot of sense and people would understand it, I think, better that way. So anyways, that's all I got for you today. The last thing I do want to mention, though, the last thing, and probably the most important thing from this last little follow-up here, is this. For anybody who's somewhat new to Bitcoin, and for people who are more advanced and are looking to get a multi-signature set up. So this is from our friends in Regina, QuickBit, the only brick and mortar Bitcoin store in Canada. And so they are authorized dealers of Seedor, CoinKite, Trezor, and Blockstream Jade. So we have this new kit from the Bitcoin Journey from 88 Sats called the Starter Kit. And with this, you get one Blockstream Jade, beautiful little device there, never connects to the internet, never connects to a laptop. It uses a QR scanner to connect to your Sparrow wallet. You get some Bitcoin trading cards, and the big ticket item here is the stamp seed. So you get the hammer, the anvil, one of these stamp seed plates to put your words. You get all the letters there, and you get the guide. So if you use that, type in the code 88 Sats, you're going to get 15% off of that. 15% off. So the reason, if you're interested in that, there's a link right at the top of the show notes in the description there. You can click that. And the reason why I love the relationship I have with QuickBit here is because they are local. They're the only brick and mortar store in Canada. They've been there for 5 years, I think, or 4 years. But the nice thing about buying instead of buying directly from Blockstream Jade is the shipping is incredibly fast. It's a couple days. Depending on where you are, you're not going to pay any import fees on it. And the most important thing is the customer service there. So if something happens, if you need help getting set up, you can actually just call QuickBit, and Leander there or Dale will be happy to help you with whatever you need. So those are the things that something like a Blockstream would not offer. And they actually encourage their customers to buy from authorized dealers like QuickBit for that reason. So they are a friend of the show. They're a sponsor of the show. And I think that this is the perfect kit for anybody who's just getting into Bitcoin. I'd say the threshold would be about 5 million sats. If you got 5 million sats and you don't have a hardware device yet, you should be looking at something like this to secure it. So that's it. I appreciate everybody for sticking around to the end here. We did an hour and 40 minutes. I really thought that we were going to end these long shows, but here we are. So have yourselves a great Tuesday. I think Arnie's just stopping by here to say goodbye to everybody. There he is. And he's showing up for episode number 5 of Project Potential. So again, there's Arnie's wallet. The Zap stream's been broken, so the Zaps have been few and far between. So if you feel like sending some value back to the show today, that's the best way to do it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for contributing to the show. Thanks for making the show what it is every day. And thanks for everything. This channel is growing at a pace that I didn't imagine. And it's all because of the folks out here. So have an amazing day, and we'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. And keep an eye out for Project Potential. It should be out sometime in the next couple hours. So bye-bye.